Oh, turn this down.
Welcome, everybody, to the Goblins live show. We have a fantastic show for you today where we're going to discuss how e-bikes and e-scooters might be taking potential bikers of the future away.
Yeah.
All right, you ready, wifey?
Ready.
Let's roll the intro. Oh. How we doing, wifey? What's going on? Anything interesting?
No,
No?
I've just been poorly all week.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you've had a few days off, haven't you, from work?
Yeah, I was so unwell. I didn't even work for 2 days.
Yeah.
So
You were alright. You were fine.
I wasn't.
You had a sore throat.
A bit more than that. You know, it was a bit more than that.
Hello, 125 guy. Hello, Mark. How you doing? Hope you're doing alright. Yeah, not nothing too interesting this week has been going on, has it really? It's been a bit of a boring one for me, I think. I did find some old pictures of the ER6 and
Did you?
yeah, of the pictures that we used to take on our little adventures on that bike.
Really?
Yeah. I found them. I found
I'll
them
have
the
to
other
see
day.
those.
So I'm thinking of posting a few of those to Instagram because
Mm.
they'll be funny. And yeah, just a bit of a blast from the past. We look
Yeah.
nearly 10 years younger.
Because we were
Well,
nearly 10 years younger.
Yeah, it was almost a decade
Yeah.
ago now
Yeah, it
since we
was.
took those pictures.
Have you
so-
got the picture of me on the bike?
Yeah,
Is that the one?
all of them, yeah. I've even got one of me and my brother.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, when it must have been within the first few months of having that bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. My brother was on pillion. Yeah, there's some funny pictures from back in the day. So yeah, I'll have to share those with everyone at some point.
The thing is, I don't look much different. You look completely different to how you did
Well, yeah,
10 years ago.
I got short hair back then.
And no beard.
Yeah, no, not a beard whatsoever.
Because I don't look any
Yeah.
different.
No, I don't think you do.
No.
No, I looking at you now, and no, I don't think so.
Yeah, not a different at all.
Exactly the same.
Yeah.
You're gonna be young forever.
Well, if I can look how I did 10 years ago now,
Mm.
then I'm hoping in 10 years I'll look how I do now.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's good odds.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Hopefully,
Yeah.
me too. But I'm getting white spots in my beard, so
Mm.
I'll probably look a lot older in 10 years. But anyway, wifey. So, what do you think about e-scooters and e-bikes?
I honestly think we started that trend.
No, we didn't.
No. Well, we had them. We had an e-scooter before this whole thing came around, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so you had an e-scooter. I had an electric unicycle.
God, that thing terrifies me. I don't have very good centre balance, and you really have to, don't you, to...
Yeah, that was a difficult thing to learn how to ride. Yeah, for
but
sure.
we used to go quite far on the air wheel, and we used to have the
Yeah.
dog in a little,
Yeah,
like,
I mean, back
baby
when-
holder.
back when we used to live in a flat that was closer to the town centre, yeah, we basically use the electric scooter and the air wheel all the
For
time.
everything.
All the time. But whenever
Yeah.
we need to go into town for anything, that's what we would do. Because there wasn't any point using a motorcycle or a car. You just use an e-bike or something.
But you even used it to exercise the dog, didn't you? You'd get him off the lead,
Um,
and then you'd go and he'd chase you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it for me was just because it was fun. Just fun to do, you know, going around a field on a little electric unicycle was quite fun. So
The videos are quite funny, to be fair.
yeah. We've got some videos of that as well.
I think I have mixed feelings about them.
Mm.
I think they're a great idea. Before it was very much, unless you have a council one, you can't ride one.
Yeah.
And then it became really restrictive, and it wasn't just fun anymore to have one. You couldn't have your own.
Well, apparently that's changing. Apparently, having a personal e-scooter is going to be legal. So I don't know if they're trialing it or what have you. I'm not entirely sure at which point it is at the moment, but it's something that I think. I mean, you're seeing e-scooters everywhere anyway, so it's only a matter of time before they think, oh, whatever, let's just let it happen. Because an e-scooter is no different to having an e-bike, in my opinion, and at the same time, you could say it's no different to having an electric unicycle either. They're all basically they do the same things, don't they, in effect?
Yeah, and I think it's great for those who aren't old enough to drive but maybe need to get to work or what have you, and doing shorter journeys. Fine.
Well, you say shorter journeys. A lot of these e-scooters can travel for 30 miles at a time on a single charge. So they're not 30 kilometers. But that might be better nowadays than it was 5 years ago or what have you when we had ours.
It's a good alternative for people who, like I said, don't necessarily drive and they don't need to take public transport to get where they're going. Like, it's a good alternative. Yeah,
but I would always advise someone, if you're going to get anywhere around a town, never to use public transport.
Well, no, I know, but
it's an absolute nightmare.
That's what I'm saying.
If you are working, say, from one town to the next, and you've got to catch a bus to get from your hometown to the town where you work, and then of course, from there.
That's what I mean. So when
e-scooter or something like that.
When I worked, obviously in the next town over, I used to have to do that. An e-scooter would not have got me there, I don't think. But when I worked in town, I took mine in and out, didn't I? And that's how I'd get to and from work.
Yeah, it's becoming one of those things where you kind of think, well, if I can get an e-bike or an e-scooter to get myself around a city, why would I bother with a motorcycle? They both basically achieve the same thing, except arguably e-scooters you can get around more on, because people aren't supposed to, but you can ride them on the pavements and all that. You can use cycle lanes and stuff, and all the way how traffic infrastructure is nowadays in the UK, people on bikes and stuff have priority. So,
but one thing actually that you've brought up that really grinds my gears is people who go on the roads with them and have absolutely no road awareness, don't know a pickle from a bloody pepper. Like, they don't know what they're doing. And all of a sudden they're doing this thing. So I saw it when we were out the other day. It's a kid on a bicycle. So just a bicycle. And he did this. And as he did this, he went like this.
He went anyway.
He was riding up the road, and he looked over his shoulder to see if something was coming. But as he was doing that, he leant, and then his arms went with him. Yeah. So he was going, and I thought, if a car's coming up behind you and they went to overtake you, then that would be you. You'd be on the floor.
Yep.
And that's the one thing that really worries me and annoys me about these, is that there's no road awareness for those who are on the road.
You don't need it, because these people are treated like pedestrians almost. You don't need any formal training to ride a bicycle.
No.
And you don't need any formal training to learn how to ride an e-scooter or an e-bike. You don't need it. But
they're almost more dangerous, because people who are getting on the road, you have no idea whose right of way it is. They have no idea which way to go around a roundabout.
That's one thing actually that I was curious about recently, was how many deaths have been caused by e-scooters.
There was that old man, wasn't there? 70 or something, and he went into a parked car and he died.
Something like that.
I don't think he could control it. But I mean, are you classing like hover bikey things? Those hover boards? Are you classing those in with this?
Not hoverboards. Hoverboards, they're not really usable. Things like Segways are usable, but hoverboards, they only go like 5 or 6 miles an hour, so they're not really usable for the street. Usually things that go between 15 and 20 miles an hour, around about 20 kilometers an hour, is kind of the average of a lot of these e-scooters and things like that. So no, I wouldn't count hoverboards in this.
Okay, just so we know.
I'm absolutely certain that people probably have tried in the past to use to use hoverboards to get places. But
have you seen? I don't know if you've seen people walking around with them on their shoulders because they probably died. They've tried to take the board too far and the charge is just gone.
Yeah.
Or like touring up a hill that is just too steep.
Yeah, they're
they
not.
Can't do it.
They're not going to go very far. I mean, the batteries are tiny anyway in them,
Yeah.
so they're not feasible for outdoor use.
No.
They're called Swegways. Is that what they're called?
No, the Segway.
Yeah. So the Segway is where you've got
stick.
is a hoverboard with massive wheels and you've got the handlebars. But they've been around for ages. But I'm sure that hoverboards were called Swegways.
I don't know.
They were Segways without the handlebars.
I'll have a Google.
I don't know.
God knows what's going to come up.
Apparently, so far, in 20 between. It says here June 2021. Apparently, there are 3 deaths involving e-scooters and 931 casualties.
You were actually right. They were called Swegways.
Yeah.
Sorry, 3 deaths and 900 who?
931 casualties and 3 deaths in 2021, supposedly.
Just from e-scooters?
Or up to June 2021.
Is this just e-scooters?
This is just e-scooters, not e-bikes or anything else, just e-scooters.
My mum and dad have electric bicycles.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do. My uncle has an electric bicycle as well. He has a battery strapped to his bicycle. And, okay, this is really bad. This is really, really bad. But you know the whole thing where you don't have to do any training, you're treated like a pedestrian on a bicycle, right? Well, at the place where we train martial arts, there's a pub there. And a lot of the patrons of the pub, they don't bother driving there because obviously if they try driving home after having a few drinks, well, it's not going to end very well for them. So instead, they bring their e-bikes.
Oh, no.
Right.
It's
so they will go home absolutely wasted on an e-bike, and no one can say anything to them.
I've seen them come out of there. Some of them are proper blotto.
Yeah. It's horrific.
They can't even get on them half the time.
Like, are there any laws in the UK at the moment that say you're not allowed to drink and ride a bicycle?
I'll have a Google.
I've never heard of them, if there are. But
probably the deepest, darkest depths of the highway code.
I don't know, but that's how a lot of people are getting around driving effectively, is by not driving their car. Instead, they ride their e-scooter or they ride their e-bike home. So yeah, kind of ridiculous in my opinion, but that's another issue.
It doesn't seem to be illegal, but it says cycling under the influence of alcohol is never a good idea.
So it's not right.
But it shows research shows intoxicated cyclists are 10 times more at risk of being injured in a cycling accident than sober cyclists.
Yeah, I mean, but that's obvious. That's how it would work, but people ignore that.
Although, bear with. So, according to the Road Traffic Act, 1980.
Keep it together, wifey.
Sorry. It is an offence to ride a bike when you are unfit to do so as a result of drinks or drugs use, and it is illegal for any road user not to comply with the Road Traffic Act 1998.
See, that's interesting because even though it's in the highway code, I bet you it's not enforceable.
So
Police won't enforce it.
You can be arrested, and fixed penalties are preferable to convictions, and it's usually dealt with by other disposable methods, I guess, community service, I don't know. It says that unless you do something else, such as hit someone whilst you're under the influence, you're not really likely to go to court.
No, absolutely not.
The maximum is that you'd have for careless or inconsiderate cycling if you're drunk is £1,000.
Okay, so I mean the point is that it's not illegal unless you hit someone. And
your driving license isn't endorsed because of an offence.
No, exactly. Okay, so yeah, so that's a big problem in its own right, but that's not really the point of today's show.
Interesting side take though.
But yeah, again, it does kind of, highlight the issues with e-scooters, e-bikes, whatever. I mean, people are just doing what people do. They use these things as a means of doing the thing they want to do without getting in trouble for it.
They bend the rules.
Yeah.
To make it fit what they want.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But I mean, the the main takeaway from this is, would these people, ignoring what we've just said, okay, so these people, they wanted an e-bike or they wanted an e-scooter. Do you think these are the same people that would have thought to themselves, if they didn't exist, the e-bikes, the e-scooters, if they didn't exist, I should get a motorcycle? Because they're more convenient, because I can filter, because it'll get me from A to B quicker.
Quite possibly.
Do you think that they would have been potential motorcyclists in the future?
I think everyone is a potential motorcyclist.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with that either. I think a lot of it is frame of mind. A lot of people wouldn't even dream of being a biker.
If you're gonna get on something that has an engine in or a battery in it, so electric bike, it's not that far a step.
It's not. When you think of it logically, it's not.
No.
But a lot of people think it is.
But it's not. It's still a battery. It's still motorized.
Yeah. Okay, so recently I filmed a video. I haven't posted it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. But I make a point of saying how when you're traveling at 20 miles an hour, regardless of what you're on, if you're on a bicycle, if you're on an e-scooter, if you're on a motorcycle, if you're riding 20 miles an hour or even less than 20 miles an hour and you're not wearing a helmet and you hit your head, you're pretty much gonzo. That's pretty much it. You're dead.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't take much to literally kill you if you hit your head. It's like what happened to Michael Schumacher on that skiing accident, isn't it?
Yep.
He was skiing, for God's sake. How fast could you go skiing? I suppose you could go pretty fast skiing downhill,
yeah.
But still, I mean, it's not very fast when you think about it, really. You know, a cyclist can do that kind of speed. So, but yeah, that's another thing as well. But people do treat it differently. Even though the danger is pretty much the same between the two, people treat them differently. Like, imagine if... I don't know, if your parents were completely against you having a motorcycle and you said to them, can I have an e-scooter instead? Do you think they'd be all right with that?
Yeah. Sorry.
Don't know.
Michael Schumacher was going at 20 miles an hour.
There you go, look at that.
I had to Google it. I had to find out.
See,
apparently,
bang.
it was a leisurely pace of 20 miles per hour.
Yeah. I'm sure you could go a lot faster than that. But
yeah, I mean, he went fast every day of his career, didn't he? Didn't he do that skiing?
That's right. Okay, we've got some other people in the chat. Lone Wolf UK, good to see you, mate. We've got a new person, Lestat de Lioncourt.
That's
hey,
such an amazing name.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's a cool name. Gentleman Rider, hello, mate. How you doing? Good to see you. But yeah, so basically what we're trying to find out in today's show, what we're trying to discuss is whether or not this whole electric revolution of all these different kinds of transportation devices now, where, you know, where these people are buying these, would they instead have bought a motorcycle if they didn't have access to these kinds of transportation devices? And I think a lot of this will depend on your situation, your hobbies, your interests. If you're just looking at getting something that will get you from A to B, then, you know, and it's a relatively short distance, say across a town centre or something like that, or a city environment, well, would there be any point in getting a motorcycle where you've got to do a license, you've got to buy all the equipment, you've got to insure it, you've got to tax it, you've got to spend loads and loads of money, even if it's just a 125, it's just a 125 on a CBT, you still got to pay for your CBT, you still got to pay for your equipment, still got to pay for your helmet, for your boots, for your bike, for... Right? When you add up all those costs, it's a lot of money, considering that you can buy an e-scooter for less than £500.
Yeah, I think it raises an interesting point though as well. With motorcycles, there's very clear boundaries of you're on the road.
Yeah.
That is where you are. But as Mark's pointed out, where do they belong? Where do things belong? Because they can be in the cycle lanes, they can be on the pavement. There's no hard and fast enforceable where they should be. There
isn't a clear cut. Well, the clear cut place they should be is on the road. According to the highway code, cyclists, and I'm assuming that this also extends to e-scooter users and what have you, should be on the road. Yeah. And again, you see these, oh God, what are they called? The electric four-wheelers.
Mobility scooters.
Mobility scooters. You see people riding those on the road.
On the motorway as well. I saw someone go down the bypass on one, and I was what is he doing?
But anyway, for me, it doesn't seem right that someone should be riding a mobility scooter on a road.
No.
They should be riding it on the pavement. But then if they can ride on the pavement, why can't someone on an e-scooter ride on the pavement? Why can't a cyclist ride on the pavement? See, this is where people don't know where they're supposed to be. I mean, cyclists know where they should be, but a lot of the time there are certain situations where they shouldn't be on the road, i.e. there's a cycle lane on the pavement, a designated cycle lane on the pavement for them to use, and they decide to stay on the road.
Yeah.
That kind of thing annoys me. And again, that also applies with e-scooters as well. As far as I'm concerned, if you're on an e-scooter, you should be following the same rules as a cyclist, really. That's what you should be doing.
Yeah.
But mobility scooters, that's something else entirely. That's another discussion point. But you could argue, you could put those all in the same category of electric transportation devices, you know. I'm not going to get into that. I was going to say something, but no, I'm not going to get into that.
Let's move away from that.
But it's really tough to kind of figure this one out, because the UK, I don't know if it's just because the way how roads have been organised, the way how roads have been designed, I don't know, but there simply isn't enough room on the roads to have a pavement, to have a cycle lane, and this is on both sides of the road, pavement, cycle lane, road for traffic, and then same on the opposite side. I don't know if on most city roads, most, you know, rural roads, rural roads as well, but also, what's the word? Suburban roads as well, whether or not there is simply enough room to build that infrastructure onto the roads. You just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think there is in a lot of cases, so they have to put them on main roads, and you know, I mean, that's all well and good, but that's not where people are holding up traffic, is it? On main roads, people are holding up traffic on country roads and suburban roads and stuff, aren't they? The roads where there is no designated place for a cyclist or for an e-scooter rider or for, you know, anyone else that doesn't drive a car or ride a motorcycle. So yeah, that's a really, really tough one to answer. And again, it kind of adds to the whole confusing grey area, you know, of e-scooters in particular.
There's very blurred lines around it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is about e-scooters and e-bikes is you don't need to there's not a lot of effort involved to go very fast. You know, a cyclist, you see a lot of cyclists that will kind of, you know, just chill out, you know, just poodle along.
Yeah.
And you know, you will get some cyclists as well that are like racers. They you know, they've got a proper bike, like carbon fiber frame bike, and they've got the helmet on, the suit and everything, and they can go really fast.
Yeah.
You know, 30-40 mile an hour is probably easy for these kinds of riders, but most cyclists, you know, they'll just go really slow. On an e-scooter, you don't have to do a lot to get yourself going really fast. And of course, what are people going to do? They're going to go as fast as they bloody well can, aren't they? You know, that's probably what they're going to try and do. So it's just human nature in that regard. So again, I mean, should we start adding speed limits for these kinds of people?
Or limiters. They can only go so
fast. I'm thinking of loads and loads of talking points here that I've actually filmed videos on. So I'm trying not to say about those, but you know, like 20 mile an hour zones, for example, you know, so if a cyclist or an e-scooter rider is able to go blast past 20 mile an hour past the speed camera, you know, are they allowed to get away with it? Whereas someone on a motorcycle or in a car can't get away with that, you know? Again, something else to consider. But yeah, it's a difficult one. But
I do feel as though, just going back to the subject matter for a moment, that it could potentially, someone who is now, say, 15, 16, has been thinking, actually, I'm gonna get a bike, I'm really excited, and then they find that they can just get an e-scooter. They might be like, actually, that's way easier. I don't have to go spend any money. I don't have to go do a course. I don't have to worry.
That's right.
I can literally get it when I want it and put it back down when I don't.
Mark makes a very good point in the chat as well, that, the cost of fuel is going up so much that people are going to think, well, there's no point in me getting a car. There's no point in me getting a motorcycle. It just simply costs too much. And then they end up just buying an e-scooter anyway.
But you can even apply that to the fact that petrol and fuel is more expensive, but buying an electric car is going to be a chunk of change to try and get, but the e-scooter they can just pay for when they want to use it.
Well, yeah, that's true,
what I mean?
and buying an e-scooter as well is fairly
It's a fraction
cheap.
of the price,
It's
yeah.
fairly cheap just buying an e-scooter. But I mean, when you mentioned about electric cars, now this is interesting because at fuel prices at £1 a litre, it's pretty hard to justify getting an electric car.
Yes.
At £2 a litre, which that's probably where it's going to go, and maybe even beyond. At this point, the rate it's been skyrocketing, cost of fuel is ICE cars, internal combustion engines, are going to be obsolete because there's no point. Even though electric cars are more expensive at the moment, £10,000 more expensive than a retail combustion engine car. When you work out how much it's going to cost you in fuel over the average amount of mileage that you do every single year, you'll probably find, especially with maintenance and stuff, because electric cars don't need maintenance or hardly any maintenance. It's an easy calculation to make at that point. And lots of people are going to be buying electric cars just because there's no point in paying for so much petrol.
I had the daily call with my bestie today.
Oh yeah,
191. Where she is.
Jesus Christ. Well, I bet you that people living around bigger cities, Birmingham, London, Bristol, they're probably already seeing £2 a litre for petrol. Is that for diesel or petrol?
Petrol.
That's for petrol. That's insane.
Yeah.
Well, diesel's already hit £2 a litre in some places. I know that for a fact. But petrol is on its way there. Yeah, absolutely insane. But yeah, it's a very, very good point, Mark, that at some point, it's almost like we're not going to have a choice. The choice is going to be taken away from us because we simply won't be able to afford to buy the petrol. It's just ridiculous. But I mean, that's the way it's going at the moment. I'm hoping that in the near future, in the next 6 to 12 months or so, that fuel reserves from other countries will start flowing around the world, and hopefully that will change the global prices of oil. But at this point, there's no end in sight to how expensive fuel's going to get.
I mean, we've already started talking about electric cars, haven't we?
Literally in the last couple of weeks, we were thinking, well, there's no point in us buying fuel for cars anymore. We might as well get an electric car for our next car. And I didn't want to buy an electric car until maybe closer to 2030. But my car expires, and your car expires as well in the next 2 years, the contracts for those cars. So
the choice is being taken out of our hands.
Literally out of our hands. Yeah, because it's being outpriced. Yeah. Crazy. There's
a comment from Lone Wolf.
Let's have a look here.
Look at it this way. Petrol is still cheaper than alcohol and gives you more smiles per mile. $1.98 per litre here in Kendal at Shell Garage.
Yeah.
That made me smile.
Yeah. Well, that's the funny thing, isn't it, about petrol? I mean, you mentioned about alcohol there. So alcohol has got a tax on it, and does alcohol have a tax specifically on it? Does it have VAT and then another tax?
I don't know. Does some of it have sugar tax though, like spirits and stuff now?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
I don't know.
But the funniest thing is about petrol and diesel is so you pay VAT on the petrol that you buy, but then you also pay another tax on top of a tax. Like, I mean, come on! Like, how much tax do you want to charge us for one item? It's ridiculous. So, okay, so we'll pay for VAT, we'll pay fuel duty, then we'll pay road tax on top of that, and then look at that, bloody hell, massive cost, just thrown away.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but petrol now lasts. Petrol lasts as long as a bottle of alcohol does now, doesn't it? Like, it just doesn't last.
How do you mean?
Well,
it doesn't get you very far, you mean? Yeah.
What you would usually say 28 litres would cost me £35. Those days are long gone.
125 guy. If it's on the road, then it should be registered. See, I agree with that, and I also agree it should be insured as well.
Yeah.
If you're buying an e-scooter or even a bicycle, you should probably insure it.
If they go into the back of a car
Exactly.
and knock a bumper off.
Well, I mean,
what's going to happen?
Cyclists aren't so much of an issue here because bikes tend to be quite lightweight. So you might find a dent in your car or something, right? Yeah, fine, that's a pain in the ass. But if someone on an e-scooter or an e-bike comes crashing into you, they're going to do a lot more damage. So from that, mainly because they're probably going to be going a lot faster, but also because they're heavier, physically heavier things, especially with you on top as well. It's just, God knows how much damage they're going to do to a car.
Yeah.
Oh.
Especially you on top.
Well, a human, a person.
Not me, but...
Yeah, you specifically, with you on top. But yeah, that 125 guy, by 2035, production of ICE will be over and everything will be electric. Yeah, so, I mean, I was hoping to wait up until as close to that point as possible before changing over to electric. That's in my ideal world. That's what I was thinking of. But
out of curiosity, with our lovely viewers here, when are you guys thinking of going electric?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Just out of curiosity, to see
if you
how...
guys have an ICE car, when are you planning to change that? Are you planning to go electric sooner rather than later?
Or are you just going to stop driving?
Or are you feeling the same way as us, where basically, you don't feel like as much of a choice anymore because fuel will cost too much anyway?
I wonder if it will, if a lot of the older generation will then just stop driving.
See, no, I don't think so. Why would they? Why should they?
Don't know.
They need to get about as well. Maybe we'll put them on e-scooters as well. E-scooters for the elderly.
God. Imagine my grandma on an e-scooter.
I'll tell you what, I think I'll be one of those people. When I'm 60, 70 years old, I'll still be on a e-scooter or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As long as you've got a little basket for the dog, it'll be fine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So later the better, Mark says, about changing to electric. Yeah, me too. It's a tough one. It's a real tough one. But I mean, the thing is, again, we can make the same arguments between ICE cars and electric cars with ICE bikes and electric bikes, motorcycles. At which point does it become more cost effective to buy an electric motorcycle than an ICE?
Yeah.
It's, again, we're very, very quickly getting to that point where there will be no point in buying an ICE, which is just outrageous. Especially because there's still a lot of development going on with ICEs from a lot of these companies. They're still manufacturing and still doing R&D in traditional engines. So,
I mean, looking at some of the comments that we've got coming in about the question I posed, a lot of it is when they're better, when they can actually do what my car can now do without problem. And that's the thing, the market is so new, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are all these kinks and things after you worked out.
Yeah. And then, when you think about licensing as well, so at which point is an e-bike an electric motorcycle? At which point is an electric scooter an electric motorcycle? Because depending on where they decide to put that, people will either have to get motorcycle licenses to ride them, or like we were saying earlier, they'll have to insure them, they'll have to register them,
become
road tax
responsible
them.
For them,
basically. They have to be responsible road users at that point. So where is that line? Where are we drawing that line? Because again,
at the moment,
we have the same issue between electric motorcycles. So you buy a zero motorcycle. Why would you bother buying a zero motorcycle when you could just buy an e-bike or an electric scooter? Guess what? I don't think the Zero is going to have that much extra range over one of these other bikes because they'll be significantly heavier. That's another issue with Zeros is I think the advertised range of their bikes is a lot higher than what they actually are, because they're also bundling in like the add-ons that the extra add-on batteries that you can buy, or the extra something that you can buy to make them extend the range, but the actual range is like less than 100 miles on a single charge. I mean, that we need to get better. The range in cars is getting there. 200, 300 miles on a single charge in a car is becoming more normal, which is good. I think that is really good. But we need to try and get to that point with bikes as well, with motorcycles. Hopefully, if we can get to 150 or 200 mile range on a single tank on an electric motorcycle, I think that will be the tipping point between traditional bikers getting an ICE and not.
Something I just want to circle back to is when we just spoke about responsibility.
Yeah.
At the moment, with an e product, so bike or scooter, if you break it or you don't want it anymore, you can just leave it abandoned. No one's going to know it was yours. No one's going to know you're responsible.
E-waste.
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 Yeah. But as soon as you then start to register it and it has a registration number on it and whatever, people
you're more accountable.
You're more accountable. Yeah. Which might be another reason some people think, actually, if I started riding, I'd have a number plate, I'd have all these things that tie it back to me. I'd have a data tag or whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, if I just went on an e-scooter, I could do whatever I need to, get rid of it, and it won't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough where we draw the line on these certain things. But at some point, we're going to have to.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have a choice.
We're going to have to start drawing lines around where things are going to be, what the rules are around these certain things, and whether or not certain things at the moment that aren't considered, I don't know, what would you call it? Like a road using transportation device. I don't know. At which point do you classify that the same as everything else?
Well, it's a road vehicle, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, but scooters at the moment, e-scooters, electric bikes aren't classed as road users. They're classed as pedestrians. Well, in some ways they're classed as pedestrians, in other ways they're classed as road users, but not to the same extent as cars and motorcycles are.
We got little
Come here, bud. Hey, there he is.
Coming and say hello.
The real issue we've got is when schools start endorsing electric scooters. You don't have your cycling proficiency anymore. You have your scooter proficiency.
Yeah, but they don't have that now.
Do they stop that?
They should have that now.
Have they stopped
They
it?
should. No, I don't know, but they should have a proficiency something, a training course or something for e-scooters and stuff like that. They definitely should.
He won't put his paws down.
No, I know. He wants to be up on the table. Wants everyone to see him. Hello, mate. Yeah, let's have a look here. How do you say that? Fidelity.
That's how I've read it. Yeah.
Fidelity. That's pretty cool. The way you've spelt that. Well done. Would be cool to have one in the boot. Yeah, I think at this point that's kind of like how they're being used is, so you get to a certain place in a car, or even like a park and ride. If you drive a car and park in the park and ride areas, instead of catching a bus into the centre of town, you get your e-bike or your e-scooter out the boot and then use that
it's
to
like
get
a dedicated
you the rest
path
of the way.
or something to get you there.
I mean, that's a pretty good idea. As an alternative to buses anyway. But yeah, that's this thing as well. I prefer people to be on e-scooters than on buses. Honestly, buses are such a pain. More of a pain than, for me, they're just such a... there's such an inconvenience, not just for the people that get stuck behind buses, but also for the people using buses. They have to wait in a bus stop for ages, waiting for a bus that may or may not come. Things like routes get changed all the time without people even knowing about them. Buses are an absolute nightmare, and I think they should be extinct. They should get rid of buses.
Extinct.
Yeah, we should get rid of them.
When you sit on a bus, and you don't know why it stopped for such a long time.
Intercity buses, I think, are absolutely fine. Going between town to town, those kinds of buses should still be fine. But the kind of buses that go around, suburbs and country roads and all that, come on, you don't need that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are people that are very dependent on these services. I'm sure there are, but yeah. I mean, if people had e-scooters instead, and they could get to the same places that they would if they were traveling on a bus, and I think that would be better. But
yeah, I think as well. Another thing that I've got dog hair up my nose. It's really distracting. I think another thing is that now we've always praised when it comes to riding a bike, and you can just get dedicated parking, usually free, amazing. But with an e-scooter, you don't have to leave it anywhere. You can take it with you into a shop. Most shops now.
Yeah,
not all shops.
And they can't give you a parking ticket either.
No.
They won't give you a parking ticket. That's the thing actually. This is ages ago. I parked my motorcycle I think it was in Cheltenham, and I parked it basically where a lot of other bikers park their bikes, on bicycle racks. And there's somewhere to tie your motorcycle, and it's nice and secure. I got a ticket for that. I got a ticket from the council for parking my old 125 there. When I was like, hang on a minute, there are loads of other bikers that park their bikes here all the time, and their justification was there is specific motorcycle parking in the town centre. Fine, fair enough. There is. There's no locks. You can't lock your bike down to anything. It's like, what's the point? You know? I mean, in the middle of a town centre, you'd have thought they'd be fairly safe, but there are people stealing motorcycles in town centres regularly.
Yeah.
So it makes more sense if they had motorcycle parking that had locking, somewhere you could lock your bike or an anchor or something.
Do you remember when we went to Bristol for my birthday that year and we took the ZZR?
Yeah.
And there was that dedicated parking, wasn't there? And that was great. You had the little rails and everything.
Yeah, but again, there wasn't any locking areas around there. They had like some bar or something, but that was it. And it was only along one side of the car park. We didn't use one of those when we parked up.
Are you sure?
Absolutely, yeah.
No, because you tied it to the wheel, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yes.
So, yeah. Another annoying thing, but there you go. Let's have a look here. Lone Wolf UK. I shall never give up riding petrol inline 4 motorcycles. See, I don't think I will either. I want to continue riding ICE motorcycles for as long as I live, and as long as I can. I will, as long as we can get hold of fuel. That's what I'll be doing. This isn't going to be turning into an electric motorcycle YouTube channel ever, at least anytime soon. Anyway, we might have some electric bikes come on here and there, but it's not going to be like that at all.
Won't be the main show, will it?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But again, I mean, when you think about electric motorcycles, the market and the development is behind cars because it's not priority, but it is behind probably by about five or 6 years. The technology, the R&D is behind on motorcycles, on electric motorcycles. So we've got that to look forward to as well.
It's not necessarily a bad thing though, because they'll be able to perfect cars and they'll be able to perfect all those sides, but then they need to make the battery smaller to go in the bike.
Yes and no. So I think the issue that well, I don't know. I've never thought this way, but a few people that I've met in the past have kind of thought to themselves, well, the innovation and the technology you get in a car would translate to a motorcycle, wouldn't it? And it doesn't. It totally doesn't. A motorcycle is a totally different machine to a car. The amount of engineering and mechanical problems that you'll have from designing a motorcycle engine are vast, because you're having to do all the exact same things a car would do in much less space.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with, I imagine it's no different to electric motorcycles as well, where, yeah, fine, battery technology might get better, but you're not necessarily going to be able to fit that kind of battery in a motorcycle. The motors might have to be alternative motors to one you'd have in a car, because they might not fit, or they might produce too much torque or something. There might be something wrong with an electric motor in a car which is why it wouldn't fit on a motorcycle, and vice versa.
Can you imagine an electric motorhome?
No, I can't. Kill me now. You've poisoned my brain. Mark, when they produce a car good enough to tow a caravan a good distance, I'll change. There you go. See, that's another market that governments aren't thinking about, are people that do caravanning. I mean, well, you said about motorhomes, electric motorhomes. Actually, that's a good point. You know, a lot of people do have motorhomes. And
I stole Mark's idea.
Oh, of course you did. Yeah. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense as well. When are they going to start? Well, lorries. When are they going to start making electric lorries? Because they're a big polluter and things need to change there.
A necessity.
Necessity, exactly. And also, yeah, there's going to be people left behind by this change, aren't there?
Yes.
Basically. So people that do like to tow caravans and things, or just towing in general, it's one of those things that, again, people are probably gonna get left out on. But yeah, I mean, let's have a look here. What else we got? John Hambrook, good to see you, mate. I know someone with an electric motorbike, and it has spent more time getting repaired than it has been on the road. That's interesting. I never thought that electric motorcycles would be unreliable, because there's hardly any moving parts. You have the battery, you have the motors, and, well, that's it. Everything else is the same. So that's very interesting. That's something to keep an eye out for. What brand is it? Do you know there, John? If you let us know in the chat there what the brand is of that motorcycle, I'd like to do a bit of research into that myself, I think. Lone Wolf UK, I would seriously miss the sound of living, breathing engine, the soul of a living machine. Yeah, there is something very satisfying about the way how an engine sounds. It's like it has its own personality, isn't it? You know, it has a soul. It has something that that's, it feels alive.
Yeah.
When you turn it on and when you start it up and you hear the pistons moving up and down.
The thing is, I know when you're coming home. I can hear you coming down the road.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, right, okay, best get dinner on the table. And the dog sits by the front door.
Yeah.
You get an electric bike, that's my timer gone out the window.
Your timer gone out the window, yeah.
It won't be the same.
Yeah, I don't think it will be the same, unfortunately.
And that, I think, is going to put off new bikers.
That's another reason why bikers are probably going to stop riding motorcycles, because riding an electric motorcycle is not going to be the same as riding an ICE motorcycle. It just won't be the same thing. It won't be the same experience. I mean, I've tried saying this in the past, and people that are fond of this electric movement and all that are always very, very quick to say things like, "Oh, it is a motorcycle. It's not a big scooter." And it's like, well, but that's how it's going to feel. It's not going to feel the same. It's going to be a completely different experience.
People who say that aren't riders.
I don't know. You can't say that. You can't say that.
And I stand by it.
Lone Wolf UK, I'm concerned about all these new registered e-bikes that can be hacked.
Can they be hacked?
But can they be hacked by authorities or a third person? I mean, that kind of thing I don't think is as much of an issue. Well, it's not as much of an issue for e-bikes as it is for anything else. So, I mean, just take my ZH2, for example. The ZH2 has got a dashboard which you can connect Bluetooth to your phone, and you can change all sorts of things on there. I mean, it's not critical functions. It's just general things like the rider mode that you want to use. So basically you set it on your phone, and then you go to the bike, and then you turn it on, and it's got the rider mode set for you already. But these kind of electric features, can already be hacked. So I don't know how much of a difference that will make. And I don't know this because I'm not involved in programming, but I wouldn't have thought that they'd have the rider systems kind of integrated with critical systems like ABS, like fuel injection, like throttle control.
But I guess
no, that's not true. Throttle control is part of the rider mode. So,
but I guess if you've registered your details against the bike, that's in a database which could be hacked. Not the bike itself, but your details could be accessed.
That's true. Yeah.
Gosh, I'm losing my dog.
Yeah. That's a tough one, I mean, how much personal data would a motorcycle keep on their rider?
It could be.
Would it keep phone numbers, addresses, names, email addresses?
If you've got a warranty on it, it could be date of birth.
Do you really think that some of these bikes will store that kind of information like phones do?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Why not?
Maybe they would.
Why wouldn't they?
Who knows? That's a very interesting one. That might be a cause for concern in future, depending on how much data motorcycles or electric motorcycles will store on the user.
Everything can be hacked, let's be honest.
Well, I mean, it's like the day when you won't be able to start an e-scooter or an electric motorcycle unless you give it your fingerprint recognition. That could be hacked. That's your fingerprint data. That's your biometric data.
Yeah.
That someone could potentially hack into.
Cut your finger off and off they go.
But there's no reason why, so you have a key, you put it in ignition, and then it says something like you can't start the bike until you've signed on your thumbprint or something. Put your thumbprint on the screen or on the handlebar or something like that. Have a little fingerprint sensor, and then the bike starts.
Very James Bond. This gun will only work.
But I mean that could be a real concern.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting one, mate. Well done. Lone Wolf UK, Will Smith's iRobot springs to mind. Yeah. yeah, it sure does. 125 guy should have a CBT to ride an e-bike. Absolutely. At least if it's like an e-bike that has certain specifications, like it can go up to 30 miles an hour or 40 miles an hour. I mean, I don't know if those kinds of bikes are legal, actually. Ones that can go that speed. I don't know. But yeah, you should have some form of official training or something like that, some highway code stuff, just some general, something to educate potential users of the road, It does make sense that. Everyone should take a motorcycle CBT even before they get in a car. Yeah, we had this discussion before. I agree.
My dad would not.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
So when I was younger and I wanted to ride, my dad said that he wanted me to have my driving license first to get some road awareness. And that's why I done it my way round as opposed to the other way round.
But a CBT will do that. And a CBT will force you to feel vulnerable on the road, which is really important. If you feel vulnerable on a motorcycle, when you jump in a car, all of a sudden your perspective changes on how vulnerable you are in a car as well as in a motorcycle. That awareness is something you don't get if you just get a driving license.
When he comes on the live show, we'll put that question to him.
We'll ask him.
We'll have him explain himself in front of the jury.
Lestat de Leoncourt. Food for thought. Thank you, Goblin Rise. Take care. Good evening. And to you, mate. Yeah, thank you for joining us on the show today.
And the second part of that says, "See you later, my friends."
Perfect. I'm assuming that's French. I'm sorry, I don't
I think it is, yeah.
Speak French or read French, but yeah, thank you for that, mate. Appreciate that. 125 guy, would you try and take an electric bike on a test ride and do a first impressions video? Yeah. As soon as I get the opportunity to, I will be. I think Zero are kind of trying to be the Tesla of electric motorcycles, so I think I'm going to try one of those first if I get the opportunity. I actually looked at doing test rides for Zero recently, a few weeks ago, but at the moment you have to travel quite a distance, or at least from where we are, to actually do the test ride. So but yeah, that is something I'm looking to do in the near future, or as soon as I get the chance to. Yeah, absolutely. Alone with UK, cut their finger off, and there you go, wifey 2022. Is that really what you said?
Yeah. You said the fingerprints. Oh
yeah, of course. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
hey,
125, I'm going to put that on a t-shirt.
It's our first bit of merchandise.
Brilliant. There you go.
I have lots of these things. We'll
have to keep that one in mind, I think. Fidelity, an electric scooter or bike couldn't possibly replace an ICE, but would be better for the occasional short distance personal travel. Yeah, that's the only difference where an electric scooter wouldn't make sense is if you're doing any kind of long distance traveling. But I mean, when we think about it, how much long distance traveling do we do on, let's say, a weekly basis?
None at the moment.
Not a lot. The only times when I do a long distance travel is either when I'm going into the office for work. Even then, that's not a long distance, but going to the office for work, or if I'm shooting a video or something like that.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if we're going to the shops, or if we're going to see family, or if we're, I don't know, just going into town, that distance can be covered by an electric scooter, or can be covered by an electric transportation device.
Yeah, it can.
Easily. And back again, easily. And this is where a lot of, especially city riders, you know, where the motivation comes from for riding a motorcycle to begin with, is because it's easier getting around town, easier doing those shorter distances on a motorcycle. Well, now you've got an alternative to a motorcycle. Which one would you go for? For you know, from an economic sense, an e-scooter is kind of like a no-brainer. You've got to really, really want to ride a motorcycle to get one.
I think it's going to become hard. Well, not harder, but I think harder to convince people to ride when there's things like e-scooters and electric bikes out there.
Yeah, especially if e-scooters get more range. They can go a bit faster. They can, you know, carry more weight. They can be a bit bigger, maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows? The sky's the limit with that.
It is now.
So yeah, it's it's difficult. I mean, the problem is we're getting to a point where there's going to be no distinction between what a motorcycle is and what an e-scooter is, or what an e-bike is. They're basically all going to be the same thing, just either smaller or bigger versions of the same thing. Whereas at the moment, a motorcycle is a motorcycle. Even scooters, traditional motorized scooters, are their own thing.
Yeah.
You know? But at which point does electric stuff become separate things? Or at which point does it become the same thing, just different versions of the same thing? It's like phones, you know, they're all basically the same. I mean, that's basically what they are, aren't they? They're all exactly the same.
Yeah, it just looks like different.
They might just look slightly different, but
they all do the same thing.
Yeah, who knows? yeah, it's having the option though. That's right. Yeah, having Lone Wolf. Hang on, I'll get back to that in a second. Fidelity. Lone Wolf UK long distance travel per week. I'll put it this way: in a week alone, I have to fill my 19-litre tank 3 times.
No, that's this week. That's just this week.
Yeah. In this week alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So
and it's only Thursday.
Right. Okay. So you're probably going to fill it up maybe once or twice more.
Again over the weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. I mean. That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it all depends on your personal circumstance. If you are in a situation where you don't have to travel that far or that regularly, then there's probably no need to get a motorcycle. But an electric scooter can do the same thing, or an e-bike can do basically all the things that you need them to. So, yeah, I mean, that a motorcycle for me is more... I mean, I think this is what Fidelity is getting at here. They're more versatile in what you can do with a motorcycle. You know, you can't do long distance tours, do a motorcycle holiday on an e-scooter, but you can on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose you could on an e-scooter if you're willing to charge it up every 20 miles or something like that, but it's not quite the same, is it? But yeah, so they're certainly more versatile in what you can do with them, absolutely. And that would be a motivation for getting a motorcycle rather than an e-scooter. But that's the thing, isn't it? The list of reasons why you would get a motorcycle is getting shorter because e-scooters are filling up the list on their side.
Well, I didn't pass my driving tests until 4 years ago because I didn't need to. And I had the electric scooter and I was going to and from work, my laptop on my back.
Yeah.
My lunch in my bag.
See,
it was great.
But if e-scooters didn't exist, I would have encouraged you to do your CBT and maybe get a scooter, a motorised scooter, or a 125 motorcycle.
Or I would have learnt to drive much quicker.
Well, or that. But yeah, so I think e-scooters certainly have their place in the market, but in some ways, we may be seeing them take market share away from where motorcycles traditionally would be.
Yeah.
And especially in the sense that, you don't have to do a test, you don't have to buy any equipment, you don't have to insure it, you don't have to tax it. When you've got all these things where you don't have to pay for fuel, bloody expensive fuel.
Find parking.
Yeah, when you don't have to think about all these things, an e-scooter really seems appealing to a lot of city folk, for sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let us know in the chat. How many of you, have a 125cc bike or a small displacement bike, and you use that to get around a city environment? Do you live in London? Do you live in Birmingham? Do you live in Manchester or something like that? It's one of these big cities, and whether or not you use a motorcycle to get yourself from A to B, and think to yourself, well, could an e-scooter do the same thing? Because that will be interesting to see that comparison from your own experience. If you think an e-scooter could basically do the same thing that you do day in day out, if you don't have a car, if you don't have any other mode of transport except your motorcycle, would it be better to have your motorcycle and keep that, or would it be more economical to have an e-scooter or an e-bike instead? That'd be interesting. But Lone Wolf UK, I must admit I have had help paying for fuel this week because I have been taking a friend to work and back. Fair play. Yeah, 2 up on the YZF is fun. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, did that take much convincing for this other person to get on the back of it? Yeah, that's funny. When I used to work in Cheltenham, I used to have a friend that worked at the NHS down there, and yeah, I'd take them home on the back of my ER6 back in the day.
He liked it though, didn't he?
Well, his mum absolutely hates motorcycles, so he never told her.
Oh.
Never
Did you
told
drop him
her.
off around the corner? Or did you drop
I
him outside
didn't drop him off. So I dropped him off along the main road because that's where I was going, rather than going down the side roads, drop him off close to his house. He was happy to get dropped off, on the main road instead.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's he didn't mind it himself. He quite liked it, but yeah, some people. But yeah, there you go. All right, guys and gals. I mean, have you got any closing remarks, wifey, for today's show?
Just have to watch this space and see. I don't think there's not
It's like,
a hard and fast yes or no to this. It's interesting to discuss all the options.
But do you think this whole e-scooter thing, e-bike thing, is a bit of a demon in the back of the minds of all these motorcycle manufacturers thinking, bloody hell, we're going to have to come up with something like this to stay in the game? You know, is that a thought that you think is going through their minds? Or do you think that their segment of the market is safe?
I think they're going to wait and see if this is a fad. If it's actually going to go anywhere and see what happens to their sales. I think that's really what the smart people are thinking. The people who are probably worried about their investment are probably going, oh my God, what's happening now? But I think if they're smart about it, they're just going to have to wait and see what happens and what the market shows.
I don't know. The way how I'm seeing it, the market is going more and more on e-bike, e-scooter, you know, little things to get you from A to B. You know, that market has exploded over the last few years. So it'd be interesting to see how Yamaha, how Honda, how Suzuki, even European brands, how KTM and Aprilia and Ducati, how Piaggio, I suppose, how they react to this and what they decide to do in the near future with kind of like, you know, do they want to get themselves in the game of this kind of transport, or is that outside of their domain? Is that not something that they should be getting involved with? I don't know. You could argue either way, really.
Sorry, just sneezed all over my arm.
Yeah, the dog just sneezed. But yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting to see if at some point we start seeing, I don't know, Ducati or bloody Triumph coming up with their own e-scooters or
Electric
e-bikes.
offerings,
Yeah, that would be very, very interesting to see if these companies will start putting R&D budget into these kinds of things. But yeah, we'll see. Fidelity electrification has been mandated by 2035. Yes, it has. Well, it has for cars. I don't know if that's the same for motorcycles, but it has certainly for cars. Yeah, 2035, you will not be able to buy any new car that isn't electric. I think by 2045 is when they're planning to do the same thing with used cars. I think you won't be able to buy a used car by 2045, I think, or something like that. It all has to be electric.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe the motorcycle is 2040 or 2045 for its own electrification, but I don't know. I don't know on that. Could be just a blanket thing. 2035, all ICEs brand new have to be banned. Could be. I don't know. But yeah. Lone UK, Goblin, didn't you say before it all comes down to marketing? Yeah, it does. A lot of it will be marketing for sure. And I mean, it's very difficult to market something that is significantly more expensive than something else that can do potentially the same things. That's the issue. That's why I think it might be beneficial if Yamaha decided to come out with their own e-scooter. I think a lot of people would really dig that. Yeah. Even if it was a little bit more expensive, say if it was £1,000 for an e-scooter, I think people would spend that money, and it would put Yamaha in the market, a market that basically is there are no motorcycle manufacturers that are competing in this market when I think they probably should be. They should be getting in there. Yeah. You know, rather than having all these Chinese brands taking over the e-scooter market and e-bike market, get Honda in there, get Suzuki in there, put their own weight behind their technology, behind their R&D into this tech, and I bet you it would be an absolute success on for these brands if they did that. They've got the money and the reputation, but at the moment they don't really have. I mean, I was going to say I don't really have that much competition between like an e-scooter and a motorcycle, but I suppose it is. That's the crux of the argument, isn't it? But at the moment, it's becoming more and more harder or more difficult to justify, I think, depending on the situation. Yeah. That's the thing. But, yeah. 2030 for cars. Is it? I thought it was 2035. Oh, bloody. I need to check this. because that's going to annoy me. Okay. Yeah, it looks like you're right. Yeah, article on car throttle, 2030. Okay, yeah. Yeah,
That's not very long, is it?
2030 for cars, 2035 for motorcycles. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Fidelity. Thank you for picking up on that one, mate. Appreciate that. Well done. Good. Yeah. Yeah, Lone Wolf UK, maybe the producers of electric vehicles will be cheaper with much longer ranges with some kind of exhaust sound. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, who knows? That could be an option where, yeah, they create artificial sounds or something like that. Yeah, who knows? Fidelity, that's a good point. Tesla did the quad, didn't they? I've not seen that one. I mean, Tesla have been involved in so many like projects that it's kind of tough to say what they've been up to the whole time.
Oh wow, it's called the Cyber Quad.
Is it actually?
It looks like origami.
It literally looks like a smaller version of the Cybertruck.
It's Cybertruck inspired. It says here.
What's it called? Cyber Quad.
Yeah, I think it's for kids though.
There we go. Yeah, that's again. See, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why motorcycle manufacturers couldn't get into the electric quad bike space as well. So, yeah, I mean that's another topic entirely, I think, in its own right. But yeah, Lone Wolf UK. So from 2035, no petrol bikes, but we can keep our dinosaurs on the road. I think the idea is that if you have it, you still be able to ride it. You just won't be able to sell. You won't be able to buy and sell them. You'll still be able to ride them though. So I mean, basically, yeah. By the time we get to 2035, if you haven't got an ICE motorcycle at that point, you probably won't be able to get hold of one. But it fits in the bed of the truck and can be charged by it. So that's really cool, isn't it? That's really cool. So you can put the Cyber Quad in the back of a Cyber truck and charge it. I think that's a really good idea. Really good idea.
It's good marketing.
See, I think Tesla, the thing about them is they're quite innovative in the sense that, I don't think there's much holding them back. I think they think of, oh, that's a good idea. Let's do this. That's a good idea. Let's try that. That's a good idea. Let's do this. And this is where all these things are coming out from.
They're trying to be market leaders, aren't they?
Well, they are, absolutely. And they have to try and be ahead of the game in all aspects if that's where they want to stay. So, but yeah, that's pretty cool. But anyway, right, everybody, I think we're going to call it here for today's show. Thank you ever so much for all of you with your comments and with your thoughts in the chat. Honestly, you guys make the show what it is. So yeah, thank you ever so much for that. That's absolutely fantastic. Loads of really good points. And yeah, great points for discussion. So yeah, awesome. Fantastic stuff. I mean, Wifey, is there anything else you'd like to say just before we sign off for the evening? No?
Welcome to everyone new, I guess.
Yeah. Any new viewers? Yeah, welcome to the channel. Hope you are enjoying our content. And yeah, I mean, we've got a new release tomorrow on Friday, as usual, 12 o'clock. So yeah, if I've got a knot in my hair. So yeah, if hopefully I'll see you all there. But yeah, if we don't see you tomorrow in tomorrow's video, then I hope you'll have a good weekend, and we will catch you all in next week's live show.
Ride safe. So
yeah, ride safe, guys and gals. Have a good time, and yeah, I think we're gonna have some dinner.
Good idea.
Right. Yeah. Thank you ever so much again, guys and gals, for watching. We will see you all next week.